sharing the view. Why see the world in all of its glories without a friend to tell your story?
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Volpe, and I am the director of ACIT's Tuck Everlasting. This year has been an incredible and challenging journey. We thank you for joining us and supporting this production. Over the years, we've developed a timeline, procedures, and routines for creating our musical that helps it run like a well-oiled machine. And despite our planning, we have encountered unexpected bumps in the road, like a nor'easter a couple years ago that shut down our opening night of Once on This Island. But we have always come through, and the students are made stronger by the experience, learning how to pick themselves up and keep moving forward. I don't think any of us expected to do a show during a pandemic. We were one of the few high schools to be able to do our musical Pippin last year before the state was shut down. At that time, we thought we'd be back to normal by September. Mrs. MICK was already planning choreography over the summer, and Miss Chambers was learning the score by heart. When the start of the school year came and we were working with a remote and hybrid schedule, we knew there would be challenges we have never faced before. We thought we'd share with you a little bit about what this year was like. We had to decide whether or not to pursue the venture or to cancel, and we all agreed that our seniors deserved to do a show no matter how it turned out. We were grateful to be given permission to proceed, and we carefully planned our safety measures with regard to spacing actors out on stage, mask wearing, sanitizer backstage. We had little 6-foot markings to remind the actors to keep distant in the wings. We did as little set as possible to allow for the actors to stay spread out during the dances and in their blocking. And Mr. Stratodi did a great job creating a beautiful design that also functioned the way we needed it to. We reduced the number of props used, and we cleaned them after each use. Actors were given gloves to avoid contact with touching common surfaces when they were moving set pieces or when touching each other, although we did take out a lot of the human contact, such as hugs and the kisses, obviously, and just made sure that they were touching people as little as possible, and if they had to in the scene, then they were wearing the gloves. We reduced our budget and tried to simplify everything. We made contingency plans for performing as normal, recording a stage show, or if it came down to it and we needed to, we would produce a fully virtual show from home. Thankfully, we got a chance to actually do it on stage. Our strict schedule was thrown out the window, and we learned to take each day at a time with the constant changes and adjusting on the fly. We moved to remote instruction shortly after auditions, and so all of our rehearsals became virtual. It was left up to the students to learn and practice on their own. When I would give them their blocking, I would go through the script and say, you will enter from stage right and move down stage left, and then you will cross here. So they had to visualize what they were being told. They had to write it down and do all of that without actually being in the room, being on the stage, or moving with the other actors that they would be moving with on the stage. We were able to return to in-person rehearsals on January 21st. We thought that that last week of January and the month of February would give us plenty of time to piece it all together. But we were soon faced with some winter weather that forced us back to virtual, and some unexpected quarantines that required us to push the show dates back and have several actors join us virtually in the last few days. Our dress rehearsal was the first time the entire cast and crew were together to do a run-through. When I looked back at all of our rehearsals, how many were virtual, hybrid, canceled, snow days that turned us into virtual, in person, where we were missing some characters, and just our general in-person rehearsals, only 43% of them were actually in person.
Hello, my name is Catherine Chambers. I am the vocal director here at ACIT and the music director for this year's musical Tuck Everlasting. Vocal rehearsals looked a little bit different this year, as did all of our rehearsals. As Ms. Volpe has stated, a lot of our rehearsals were completely virtual this year, a very big chunk of them. So normally in a vocal rehearsal, the students will bring their music. Every day is a different song. We go part by part, line by line, making sure we have everything down and all of the harmonies, and then I send out part tracks for them to practice. Well, this year, all they had were their part tracks. It's close to impossible to do group singing on Google Meet, as it will never ever line up. So a lot of this work for them was completely on their own, using these part tracks to learn all of their harmonies and everything by themselves. And the amount of work it takes to make sure you have that in your head before you join it together is really astronomical. So they would send me emails, we would talk over Google Meet. I would try to help them fix anything that they needed, but it really relied on them this year to learn their music. The students, especially the leads, usually have ample amount of time to do vocal technique with me, as some of these pieces can be very difficult. But again, a lot of our coachings happened over Google Meet. They might send me a recording, I send something back. All of this work, again, relying on their shoulders. And as we know, after the pandemic, it's kind of distracting to work from home, but they remained focused and did their very, very best. I'm excited for all of you to see a show that came together with so much work that was solely their own. They were positive and they kept working hard to make these songs come to life, especially when we finally got to sing together on stage, which took a long time. And then they had to put all of those harmonies together on their own. They embraced all the critique I gave them and all of the tests that I gave them on the stage for singing. And in the end, they brought it all together into a beautiful work of art. I'm grateful to have such a great group of students, and if you see them, please congratulate them on their months of work. I know you will see their true love for performing come out even through their masks in a different kind of musical than we've ever had here. So enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is DENEEN MICK, and I am the choreographer for the musical Tuck Everlasting at ACIT. This year's musical was conducted in a way that was unfamiliar to the directors and the cast in previous years. The schedule was constantly being changed and adjusted, but that did not stop us from creating a great show. I had pre-planned all of the dance routines in order to break them down to the students when we did have our rehearsals through Google Meet. I faced away from the camera when I taught the students in order to make sure that they were going in the right direction, they were using the correct arm or leg as well. Then I would turn around to show details of hand placement or head movements that were unable to be seen when I was facing away from them. Ms. Volpe recorded all of the dance rehearsals for the students to be able to practice on their own time at home. And the students asked questions regarding the choreography every single day to ensure that they knew exactly what to do on that stage when the time came. Students had to learn the movements in small spaces such as bedrooms or basement floors that are not ideal for dancers to be dancing on. For several hours a night, their families had to work life and dinner around their musical schedules, or they would be listening to the music over and over again. Dancing from home can be challenging, especially with pets or younger siblings, who would often make cameo appearances in our Google Meets. When we were able to have a live rehearsal, we went over the details to ensure musicality, proper movement, and also spacing. We needed to ensure that the students were at an appropriate distance from one another, even through traveling movements. Once I was able to see the dance routines on the stage, I was overcome with joy and all of these different emotions. The dedication of these students is beyond words. Each rehearsal proved to be better than the last, and before our eyes, we witnessed a show coming to life.
A couple other things that we had to think about this year that we haven't really thought about in the past was the video recording. We wanted to make sure that we had a good video to show to our virtual audience. Mr. Stratoti and Mr. Volpe worked very hard to make sure that we had some really great footage to share. They had multiple cameras set up throughout the pack, all wired together, and they worked on focusing the cameras, getting the right angles, making sure the lighting that we had on stage was readable through the cameras, and then switching it live during the production. In our dressing rooms, we usually have 2 to 3 actors per mirror, but we spaced out our actors so that we only had 1 per mirror, making sure that they had enough space between them. We also rented costumes, a lot of the costumes, so that we could reduce the number of pieces that we had to launder ourselves. We used wigs this year. Well, we tend to use wigs every year, but we usually have the help of cosmetology for hair and makeup, and this year the actors had to do their own hair and makeup. And our production assistants moved into crew positions, so they ended up working backstage and as our as our stage manager and assistant stage manager, only having to bring in 2 crew members so that we could keep the number of people backstage limited as well. We aren't sharing this to receive accolades for producing a show under these unprecedented circumstances, but to share with you how resilient the cast and crew are. They have achieved an incredible feat. When it got hard, they didn't quit. I loved this show before, and while it might not look like how we had originally thought, had we not been in a pandemic, I love it even more because of what it represents and the beauty that the students bring to the music and the story. We hope you enjoyed this little behind the scenes look of the making of Tuck Everlasting.